In this video, we'll be looking at Google Workspace. We'll create a form, do an analysis of the form results in Sheets, and then take some of the products of that analysis over into slides and docs. We'll create a short survey in Google Forms. We'll then analyze that survey in Google Sheets. We'll report the survey analysis done in Sheets in a slide presentation. And we'll take a look at how we can move some of that same information over to Google Docs, along with adding diagrams and drawings. I'll start in my Google Drive, drive.google.com, and add in a new Google form. It's good to give a form a title. The title will be the file name. I'll call this one Tourism. For our first question, this is just an example survey, just to show you some of the features of surveys. I'll go ahead and paste my question in. What island are you on? This will be multiple choice, which means they can only select one answer. There are some other options we'll look at in a moment, but the options here will be Kotrai, I put Chuk up there, Chuk, Kotrai, Pohnpei, Yap. If I want, I can make it required or not required, depending on what I want to have happen in the survey. To add a question, I just go to the plus sign here. I'm going to add a question. This time, though, I'm going to switch from multiple choice, where they can only select a single answer, to check boxes, where they can select multiple answers. And for this one, I'll ask the question, which FSM states have you visited? True. And this one, they can select more than one answer. These are check boxes, so they can select all that apply. I can even include that in the prompt if I want to. I'll add another question at this point. This one I'll make it multiple choice, and I'll ask them whether or not they traveled off island, just as an example. Did you travel off island in the past 12 months? This will simply be a yes, no. So I'll say yes, no. It's being suggested to me right above. Maybe. And they have to pick one. Now, I'm going to direct them to a different part of the survey according to whether they answer yes or no, so I can show you how that works in a survey. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to say go to section based on answer. And right now, it's just continue to next section because they don't have a next section. But I'm going to go down on the right side and add a section. Now I've got a new section. Sections need titles. So this one can have the title, I'll call it number of off-island trips. This will be my new section. Description is optional. And I'll add a question to it. And this time I'm going to go for a short answer here, because I don't know what they'll actually answer. And I'm going to say, how many off-island trips did you take in the past 12 months? So this should be a number. This should be a number. So I'm going to go down to the three-dot menu, response validation. I want this to be a number. And since they answered yes above, it should be greater than 0 potentially, or at least a number. let's just say it should be a number because we don't know what they'll answer, but we want it to be a number. So I'm restricting them to using a number. Other restrictions could be text. You could do a length restriction, or you could have some specified complex restriction using a regular expression. But I just want them to put a number in. And the error text, uh, it'll give a good, reasonable answer. They'll tell you, your answer must be a number. So I won't add any custom text, but you certainly can if you have specific directions you need to give them. So this is a validation restriction. It allows me to set. And those are available again from here, response validation. Now I'm going to do another section, and this section is just going to be the future of tourism section. Put in there the future of tourism. Call that future of tourism. So that I can show you how a grid works here in this. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to have a Likert type survey that I'm going to run. It's going to be a multiple choice grid. We use these quite a bit in surveys. And the question will be what the future of tourism in the FSM should be. And some of the options, I'm going to copy and paste from a text file I basically have over here to save typing, and I'm just pasting that in. You can paste right from a spreadsheet or elsewhere. Uh, and this one, where did this one, lost a piece of this one. Okay, there it is. And for this side, the columns, I'm going to just have, I'll use a four part. Strongly agree, agree, disagree, strongly disagree. Uh, you can have whatever options you want in columns and rows. Now I've got some section work to do back here. I haven't fixed my section split. If they say yes, I want them to go to the number of off-island trips. If they say no, I want them to jump over the number of off-island trips and just go straight to the future of tourism. So that's how these work. I've got it set to go to section based on answer down here. And it's required because I need to be able to send them to the correct next section. So you have to build out your sections first and then go back and set the how they move to a different section. And these will then appear as a new screen to the user. It will appear as a new screen. So with that done, one of the things I always like to do is I like to, it's a kind of a plain survey. I'll often customize the theme from this little artist palette up here. I'll scroll down. I like to use custom images. Now, they have a lot of images here that you can pick and freely use, but I tend to upload my own. These have to be typically 1600 by 400 if you're, so I'm just uploading a header. I've got a photo I can use that'll be appropriate to it. And once the photo loads, you'll see the color palette down here just change. And I can now alter my palette to one that matches some of the colors seen in the picture. In fact, if I pick this auburn orange, it kind of highlights the pier pilings in the walkway. If I switch to a this cadet blue gray, it brings out the water and sky more. So depending what I want to highlight, I can pick those, and I can change the tone of the background as well to wherever I want it. So the Google Forms will automatically do that. Up here, I do need to click on that. It'll suggest tourism, and that's fine. It picked that up from my section header. Does need to have a name. And then once it's done, I can publish that for use with people. But I'm going to check my settings first. I don't want it to be a quiz. I'll go down to responses here. I'll let this be anonymous, which means I'm not going to collect email addresses and I'm not going to require sign in. I'm not going to have any required sign in here. And the form defaults looks pretty good. Don't collect email addresses. Questions are currently required by default. You don't have to answer them. Uh, but beyond that, there's standard ways I sort of leave these things. Under presentation, um, I'm going to go ahead and show a link to another response. Um, you may want to turn this off. This will show a link at the end of the survey to file another survey. So if somebody for some reason is doing the same survey multiple times, for some particular reason, you'll want this on. But if they should only do it once, you'll want this off. And that's there under the presentation. So with that done, I'll take a look at it using this eye. That will show me what my survey will look like. It says that it's not accepting responses, but I can get a look at it. I'll get rid of that option 2. I don't need that there. I may have accidentally put a space in there. And I can test it out and see. Um, well, I can say I visited all of them. Did you visit the island in the past 12 months? You travel off island past 12 months. I have to think about that a while, but I don't believe I did. I don't believe I've gone anywhere. Now, when I say no, I'm going to jump past that number question. So I'll go ahead and answer yes. So I go to that number question. You can see what that looks like. And so if I put in here many, it's going to tell me that it must be a number. I have to give it a number. Okay, one off-island trip. When I click next, I'll now return to the flow, going to the future of tourism, and I can sit here and mark off whatever I want to mark off. And it's noting that I do have to answer everything. When I'm done, I can submit this form. That's not submitted because I'm in preview mode, but if I was actually taking it, then it's not published. So with that, I can go back to my survey. Those are two different tabs. Uh, if I ever need to add other people to work on it, I can add collaborators from the share menu. Once I get from here, from the people plus, I can add other people. Uh, I'm going to go there because I'll go ahead and set this to be anyone with the link. I frequently do this because even if you tell the user that they need to log into their college account, uh, they might forget to do that. Also, they may be concerned that you're tracking them somehow, that you're somehow tracking their responses. And so I just set it anyone with the link, which means you can then use it publicly with anyone within and outside of the college both. So I tend to do that. But again, you make the decision on what should be done. If you restrict it, you'll have to add the people that you want to take the survey. But supposing you wanted just some group of people, maybe one division or one uh, department to take it, you could add those to their email addresses here and leave it restricted. And then only those people could answer that particular survey. But I'll leave it with anyone with the link and say done. But this is also where you can add people who can collaborate. This isn't where you'd add people who respond. This would be people who you add who are going to collaborate with you on it, who have edit capability. The responder link is different. That'll come up either from here, which is kind of useless because it's not published. Always publish, then get your links sorted out. That'll change the layout a little bit, but you go up here, there's your responder link. That's the link you send to people to take the survey. That will be the link they take in order to do the survey. In fact, if you copy that and get a new tab, it'll put you in the survey taking mode. And then you can take your own survey if for some reason you're supposed to also take your survey. So that's my survey. I don't have any responses yet. Those will show up here. Well, not yet. But once we have responses, they'll show up here. And that'll be the next phase of this particular video. We'll be looking at how we can analyze the responses that we've got from our basic survey over here. But just so we have a response, I'll go ahead and put in my responses. I guess technically I visited Pompeii. I could say all three, and they'll say no. And when I say next, I've jumped past that question of how many trips. Um, and then I can answer these uh, however I wish. This is just an example, but you can set these up any way you want to, these grids or other questions. And with that, I can say submit, and we'll look at what we get when a group of responses have been recorded. But at this point, I've got one response and 100% on Pompeii. So I'll come back to look at this in just a moment. In this segment, I want to take the responses that have come in from our tourism survey and analyze them. I would note that I did go back there was a break there. I went back and took out that option 2, which is generally a blank option, and you can do that. You can simply X that out. I accidentally clicked here and added an option. Or you can have, if need be, an actual other, which looks like this, and allows the respondent to put in anything they want. Use with caution. Uh, you may wind up with everybody answering other with all sorts of things and making analysis very difficult. But there are places where other is definitely necessary. But once you put other, there's a lot of possibilities that the respondent can put in that blank that may be not what you wanted to get out of the question. So with that correction made, I've got 6 responses in. I'm going to link to Sheets. I'm going to do my analysis over in Sheets. And I'll go ahead and tell it to create a new spreadsheet. It'll open that up in Sheets. It'll come in as a table, as you see here. One of the things I'm going to do just to make my life easier in a little bit is rename this sheet D. Uh, this won't care that I've renamed it. They'll keep adding to this sheet. It'll keep adding responses. So right now we have 6 responses down to row 7. If I go over here and file another response, so I'm going to copy the responder link just so you can see what happens. I'll paste that in, and I've now in the mode where I can answer it, and I'll put down whatever island I'm on, whatever island I visited. This question does have a problem. If they haven't visited any island, then it won't let them just submit it blank. Probably should have put down there they haven't visited any. But the logic was if I'm sitting on Koshai, I probably visited Koshai if I lived there. Technically, I visited it. But this is a good one to maybe have an option to, I have never left my island or something. Uh, did you travel off island in the past 12 months? I'll go ahead and say yes. And maybe come over here. Now it's going to give me that one where I have to answer with a number. It'll bring me back into the flow. And I can just put in some answers over here, random answers, submit. And now I've got that's a new submission. And if I come back to my spreadsheet, there it is. That's the new submission down here at, at row 8. Row 8. So I've got some different things I can now analyze. Um, and the analysis, I like to do my analysis on a separate sheet because this first sheet, you really shouldn't do anything with it. No editing, because answers are flowing into this sheet here. This first sheet are flowing from the form we just did. And my goal, many of you I know don't use sheets or use sheets only in a limited way or may not be fully aware of functions. So this may be a bit of a deep dive. But at the basic level, I can, get basic stats right from this, the sum, the average, the minimum, the maximum. But I'm going to do a little bit more and have a little bit deeper dive into sheets here. So I'm going to add at the bottom left, I'm going to add a new sheet. I know this looks probably bad form to use single letters, but I like to use single letters because it keeps some of my functions a little bit less complicated. This one, I'll just say it's equal to the first row. In fact, what I'll do at this point is probably just copy some of these over, but I'm going to have to get a little bit clever. You'll see why in a moment on column C. I'm going to copy that over. I'm just going to paste those in down here. Let me do that, Control V. I'm going to do a Command Shift or V or Windows Shift V. I'll leave those unformatted for now. If I want to format them, I will later. This is going to be an equals. I'm typing in D. Just ignore this here. Let's put that away. And then an exclamation point. This means grab the data from the sheet labeled D, and I want the value in A2. And it's actually showing me what's sitting in A2, the timestamp. I'll go ahead and pull the timestamp over in case I want to do any analysis with that. And then I'll pull these over, but I'm going to start with our first function here. If I fill this down, I can fill it down to 8. I get all my answers, but this is hard to work with. So I'm going to, and just know I'll deal with that in a little bit. I'll come back to that. That's sitting in D, the D2 column. We haven't dealt with D2, but when we do, it'll look like this. I'll come back to those in a minute because I'm not going to put it in D. I'll have to remember that I need D, but I'm not going to put it there. And here's why. I'm going to edit this to be a function to break this apart uh, so that I can have them each in their own column. And this will show you how you can then break these things apart. Now, obviously, you can also grab charts from the original. You've got some charts here. You can copy these charts and put them right into a document or into a slide deck. But sometimes we want to take them apart. And that's my goal, is to show you some of the functions that you might not be aware of or might not be using. And in this case, I'm going to click up here in front of that D, and I'm going to add the word split on this one. And I'm going to split on the comma. So I'm going to have a split on the comma, but I'm going to have to put that comma in quotes. So I have a comma and then a quote that's a split on a comma, and it does this. It will take those answers and split them out into their own columns. That's sometimes handy when you need to get uh, check boxes split apart. It's a handy function. And so it will split these apart. Won't get them quite into the right row, right column, so they're all lined up, but it will split them apart. That's a function called the split function. And all I've done is drag down and it's fill that across. And so I can get the split here. And that can be, as I say, that can be very useful. Not much I can do about the fact that they're not in the right order, but it can get them, as I said, split apart. But that means I'm going to go back to, this is ABC. This will now be column D. So this is going to be, an easy way to do it is D1. That's the one there. And then I'm going to fill that down since that's the formula. That'll work. And there's my yes, no answers. And at the simplest level for analysis, I can simply select that column and add a chart. My charts are folded up in here. And the Google Sheets will do a good job of realizing I'm just probably doing a yes-no chart. And it grabbed the first row and put it in the top. Now, I could have gotten that from the original uh, from here, but the nice thing here is I can now edit this. This one, there's not much I can do in terms of editing. This is not an editable chart. So I can go here and I can say, I want yes to be a green color. I want no to be some kind of a reddish orangish color, something else. I can do that. I can edit this. I can change the title. And when I'm ready to, I can later incorporate this into a report. So I can make charts. And I can, of course, edit this. So I maybe take out that. It's giving me the count. But it did that automatically. That was column D. Let's look at column E. E equals D, Exclamation point, E1. That's how many off-island trips did you make? If I fill that down, you'll notice some of them are blank because the respondent did not go off island. But now that I've got these all in this column, I can then do, this is E, I can now do some statistical calculations if I need to do so. And so I can calculate the mean, the mode, the average. And this could be a very long, long set. So what I'll often do, because this is going to, as I keep filling down the formula, as responses come in, I'll have to fill this down. If I want to analyze this data, I'll actually do that on another sheet. This is column E off of that in that sheet. So I'm going to add another sheet, and this sheet, it's just another analysis sheet. That's what I use. A means I'm doing an analysis. And maybe in this sheet, I'm going to put over here what it is. Uh, and I can do it this way. I can say equals, go back here. I'm going to have it equal to this. D, it's an H1. You can see that. So if I want to know the sample size, I can simply type equals the count of, and this is a habit I have. I don't put anything under my data, nothing under my data. I leave these columns clean, other than charts, but I don't type underneath data columns. I treat these as data columns. That allows me to use a shortcut over here. I can use that G to G. I didn't put any numbers in. This will continue on down. I got to get the right column. I'm H, sorry, H, not G. H. But once I get this over to the correct column, the A tab, it's going to give me the sample size. And even as I add rows, this function will continue to work. It's going to add up all the numbers sitting in the H up here. It's adding up it's counting all the numbers in column H of tab A. And that's why I like to use single letters, because I do this sort of thing where I use single letters and it makes my formulas easier to type. And so I've got the numbers there. And now if I want the average of those numbers, I can simply type equals the average of the ones sitting in A, G to G. Well, no, not G, there's no G, H. I forget what column I'm on too. Make little notes if you need to, but we're in column H. And there's my average number of off-island trips. Well, functions are very, very useful. Uh, they may be a bit advanced for some, but they're very useful ways to deal with data. Uh, Now let's take a look at let's see, we can just go across up here, this one, and we'll take it over. The future of tourism should be, and if you look, this is I'm gonna have to make this a little, wrap it up, unwrap it, wrap it, turn it up so you can see this. There's the future of tourism should be, and my different answers. And if I grab that and bring it down, so it's pulling, to pause for a moment, here in I2 of my spreadsheet, it's pulling the strongly agree coming from F2 on sheet D. So let's go look at F2. F2 is down here. F2 is a strongly agree. This is F2 on the D sheet. So this function here on the A sheet, the second tab, is doing strongly, is pulling the value from F2. And when I fill that down, it's pulling from F3, F4, F5, and so forth. So that's the beginning of the basis of what I want to do. But where I'm going to go is I want to eventually try to calculate averages for these, and I can't do averages of words. So we sometimes do this with Likert surveys. We change these to numbers. Now, the simpler way to change this to a number, let's do it for this one. The simplest would be to say if that F2 equals strongly agree, then give it a number, whatever value it's supposed to have. Otherwise, another set of ifs sometimes comes in or some other number gets decided. But this will, for now, I'll just put this, which will do nothing. The complication is this will only work if it's strongly agree. I need a slightly more complicated function to get these converted to numbers, and then I'll be able to calculate averages for these values, for example, and use that in reports if I need to. So I'm going to use a function called the um, if function. What it is a stack of ifs, of things that are results. So I'll have if it's strongly agree for, if, now I got to do this again, if, so it's pairs. If the df2 is equal to agree, then that will be a 3. If df2 is equal to, it has to be in quotes by the way, disagree, then I'll give that the value 2. And if df2 is equal to, quote, disagree, it should be green, then let's give that the value 1. Let's see how that works out. We haven't generated an error, so that's a good sign. Fill down. And we do have one error here uh, because there's no match with this particular one. So let's have a look at what that is. It's equal to df6. See what I strongly disagree is not, oh, we didn't put in strongly disagree. Oh, so that's the one where you can troubleshoot these. Forgot that that should be strongly disagree. Now that's the one I just fixed, so that will fill that down. It now works. I fill it up because just these. And now I've got a function that will turn my responses into numbers. Not only do I have a function that will do that, but now I can just simply drag that across and I get numbers for all 4 columns. Again, I don't do my analysis on this second tab. I'll go to this tab and grab these and pull them across. And I'll do the same thing here. Better set this to be wrap. And that's the count. And there's my averages for these guys. And they're currently very close to the same. Oh, that's not on there. The average for these are currently seem to be very close to 2.7, 2.5, about the same numbers. Enough variation in my values maybe, but those are the averages, and I can do anything else I want with them at this point. Of course, I can also back here. I can simply make a chart if I want to. It's possible to just make charts right here, or use the charts in the original one. I'll do that. But this lets me then do a little bit more, uh, do a little bit more of a statistical analysis and calculate things like averages and means. So that's a good bit to go through, but that that can handle our survey. The way to think about spreadsheets, to step back for a moment, is each of these cells is a calculator, and you activate the calculator function with the equal sign. And so at the very core, it's just a calculator. If you want to add 2 plus 2, it will do that. But cells can refer to other cells, and that's what I've been using extensively here. And so for those who are all new to this and are uh, a little bit lost, that's what I'm doing. I'm pulling data from other cells, in this case from tab A, column H, the whole column, pulling it into the average function and calculating the average for that column. And so that's what's going on under the hood. There are a lot of things you can do with spreadsheets. There are hundreds of hours of videos out there to cover all the different things you can do with spreadsheets. But I wanted to focus on using spreadsheets to take a look at your data and potentially analyze it. At the simpler level, you can build charts right here. You can simply grab this, you know, and make a chart. And this one is editable. This one's editable. As I said, I would prefer not to work right on the data one, but charts won't affect this first data tab. And then this is a tab where I can do some splitting of the data, and finally a tab where I run functions and do analysis. So that's a bit of a deep dive into using sheets to analyze forms. Of course, sheets can be used without forms. It's a spreadsheet. You can use them for a wide variety of different applications and uses. Our next segment will be to take some of the things we're doing here and move them over into slides and docs. So I'll go ahead and these are, I'll go ahead and make a couple charts here uh, so that I have some to work with. Travel off island. I'll put these on the front and I'll need these. Let me do a quick couple charts. Throw one in here. That's the counts chart I just made. And we'll do one over here. So I have some charts I can do. Just a couple. And I won't customize them, but I will show them how we can move them and move tables and pieces of tables over as well. In this segment, we'll look at making a slide deck. This is both an introduction to how to make a slide deck. It's also, though, going to build on our previous two segments where we started with forms, moved data into a spreadsheet, try and give you an idea of how spreadsheets work, and a little bit of a deep dive into analyzing a survey. And in this one, I'm going to start a new from my drive, Google Slides. When Slides opens up, you have a blank presentation. It may offer you themes on the right side once it gets loaded. We'll need to give it templates, that is, I should say. I'll set the templates aside, but you can certainly look through these to find one you like and use one of the many templates available. I tend to start uh, just with my own templating work. I build my own templates typically, and there's some advanced capabilities. You can edit your theme and build your own themes. And so you can go in there and edit a theme from scratch. And I do that sometimes. In this case, I'll stay a little bit simpler maybe, and I'll just call this tourism, as it were, and show you that on this slide, I can change the background on the slide itself. I could do it at the theme or I could do it at the background. Uh, But if I want to change the background on just a slide, I can choose an image. Maybe this will be my opening slide, and there's an image I've got. It's a bit off screen, my apologies, but there's an open button in the corner off screen, and I just open that image, and at that point I can say done, and there's my background. This is going to come in a standard Arial font, but you have all the different fonts available to you, so you can choose some other font that will make a better header, and of course you have all of the editing tools you'd have in any of these. So you can change the background fill, you can change the color of your text if you need to for contrast. This one down here won't, if I do type down here, uh, uh, you can't see it. So in that case, I'm going to want to go in and change the font color to something more likely to be seen. Now that looks strange, so maybe I'll have to change this one too to make it match. But those are some things I can do to bring it up. And it might be that on a header like this, I may want to make it larger. And so I'm going to come down here and maybe bring it up in size. Also, there are some format options I can pull up, like a drop shadow that can sometimes make things kind of stand out, used within reason. but I'm putting a drop shadow on the tourism. Hard to see from where we are, but if I increase the distance, you'll see there's my drop shadow down there and bring it around there. So that's my drop shadow in place. Put that away and you can see I've got a shadow falling behind it. Sometimes it may help something stand out from a background. It'll look like this when it's done. Make it look like it's up off the water. To get a new slide, in slides you just simply say new slide. At this point you can type on the slide or do whatever you like. I'll probably do something to change the background. I'm in a blue theme, so maybe I'll change that to blue. But here's one where, since I'm going to want them all to have the same background color, I'm actually going to go back and edit the theme. Click on this top slide. And up here on this slide, I'm now going to go ahead and format the, change that background right here. Change background. This way, I'll give all the slides the same color, something that fits with this, maybe this basic blue that we're doing. Maybe keep it a little light so it doesn't interfere with the text too much. But that will affect all of the slides, and so I won't have to keep changing the color. When I'm done, I simply click on the X and I'm back in my regular slide. So again, that was under slide edit theme. And then you click on this top one to edit all slides. These are where you can edit a particular layout type. A lot of capabilities here. But with that, now all my slides will have a blue background, which maybe matches my tourism one. And then I can change my layouts potentially here. And so it's here that I can start bringing things in from from either my actual forms over here. You can see the forms there at the top of the screen, or from here. So let me do it both ways. One, I can go to my tourism responses, say copy chart, go over here, and simply I'll right click so you can see what I'm doing. Paste. And it says I have to do Control Command V, so I'll just do that. It'll ask whether I want to link it back to the form or paste the link. In this case, I'm going to want it to link to the form so that if the values change on the form, if this changes, this chart will update automatically. So get that in there, and there's my link. It says it's a link chart. I can always break the link if I need to up here, but I want that to be linked. And this is, your island of residence. A simple sort of thing to do. New slide inherits that nice background blue color. Just by way of example, this is just for example, I'm going to go ahead over to my tourism spreadsheet, analysis spreadsheet, and just to show you how tables come in, I'm going to select this first three columns here, copy that, and I'll go ahead and I'll paste that table in here. Same deal, in this case, link to the spreadsheet. I say paste. Now it's a little small. I'll probably want to make it a bit bigger. Uh, I may have to unlink it to change its size, but get it up in size. But that's my table right now. And it says I can make it bigger, but then the fonts don't get bigger. So I have to select the table, go in here, and maybe pump up the size a little bit. There we go. So people can see what I've got in. And this is just a table example. An example of a table from the spreadsheet. So a couple ways to get things in. One, you can copy charts straight from tourism, or you can also copy tables out of spreadsheets. Now there's another way to get charts into your presentation. Another way you can do this, let's do another slide. New slide, that's all you have to do to get a new slide. Change layouts over here. Another way to fill in a chart will be to simply go to Insert, Chart, from Sheets. This you can do on a laptop or desktop. You can go into your Sheets, and it'll pull up your recent sheets. There's my tourism response sheet. That's the one I'm working on. I click on Insert, and then I can pick which chart that I've made in that spreadsheet. Like here was that yes, no chart that I created with custom colors. I click on that, import, and that will come in as a linked chart. So this is importing a chart from Sheets into Slides. And so this is the off-island travel question. I can go right in there. Of course, as with any other presentation software, I can have slides. For example, let me go ahead and apply the layout, go back to a title and body layout, and maybe I'll have some main points, and they can be down here. I'll have the main points of my presentation, point one, point two. You can do all of these sorts of things just like you would do in any presentation. Or up here in the menus, you could bullets, numbers, formatting, maybe make it bigger if you need to. If it's not the right color or it's too faint, you can change that. Currently it's in the gray, maybe turn it black. So slides are fairly easy to work with. Uh, of course, you can always share your slide deck. Uh, Maybe change it to anyone with the link. Then you can send that link to anybody and they can then see your slideshow. But slides are really easy to work with and get data over, whether it's tables, charts. So if you want to type in anything you've got over here, you can bring over. Let's add one more slide. Let's go back to change that layout, apply a layout. I'm choosing a layout with a title only so I can paste stuff in cleanly. But I'll go back to that third tab and I've got those statistics in there, the sample size, the off-island trips, tourism averages, and then I can pick this guy up and I'm doing a Command C or Windows C, Control C, sorry, Control C often on the Windows computers, Command C on an Apple, and going back over to my link to spreadsheet, back over to my presentation, and there's coming in with the, again, it's not, formatting's a bit off, but see, make them a bit bigger maybe, the fonts, bring the font size up, that'll help some. Maybe too many decimals there. But the place to knock back decimals is back here in the spreadsheet. I'll go to the spreadsheet and bring this down to just a couple decimal places. And this guy is linked. So it'll say update. That's an update. And then it will pull in the changes I made over there will be reflected over here. Uh, and so if I want to edit this table, it's a linked table. I actually go back to my spreadsheet and that's where I can go ahead and make my edits. It's back here in the original table. Maybe I want those to be bold, make it look more like a table. Maybe I want a little bit of background on it. I'm already in blue, so maybe a darker blue. Who knows? See what it looks like. Okay, it doesn't look that good, but it'll get updated. It'll get updated. It didn't do the formatting update, so I'll have to do that over here. If you want to do that over here, since I started formatting over here, I'll just have to format from this side, from this, from the side. There we go. And I was going to make that a little bit darker. You can do this here too. You can either side. Uh, some things transfer across, some don't. Trial and error is the best way. So this is yet another table. And so I can report my statistics or whatever else I've done, my chart statistics, either from the table, for the front page table, if you will, in the sheets, the form responses, or from any of my other tabs I created, can get things into slides. That's a brief introduction of slides and how you can then take that, because we rarely go into a meeting and present spreadsheets. We go into a meeting and present presentations, and we share links to presentations. And so this can get all of your data from your forms through your sheets, analysis done, presented, and make you look good in that meeting. In this fourth and final segment, we'll take a look at moving some of our spreadsheet charts, tables, into Docs and a brief look at what we can do in terms of adding diagrams to Docs, another area that respondents indicated an interest in learning about. Let's start with new Google Docs, although you can do docs.new in your browser address bar. So I'll just start a new document. One of the things to get used to in Google Docs is to use formatting. So maybe my title is going to be Tourism in the FSM, and then I'm going to have various sections down below. I'll have an introduction, uh, uh, results of the survey, and some conclusions. And I'll set this to be a level 1 heading. And I'll set this to be level 2. And down here I'll put this report, da, 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 and there'll be text down there. I'll paste things into the results of the survey section. I'll put that heading level 2, and then I'll have my conclusions, maybe a heading level 2. One of the reasons for doing this, you can see here on the left, it builds a interactive table of contents indented. So if I take this down to heading level 3, it will then indent on this essentially an outline. Bring it back to heading level 2 and it unindents. Also, if you use these and you have a particularly long and complex document, you can then simply tell it that you want to add in a table of contents and what style you want for your table of contents. And it will add in a table of contents that will include the page numbers. Now everything's on page 1 right now, but those will automatically update. So using formatting in Docs is good. I've clicked up here. It automatically picked up my heading level 1 as the probable name of the file. It's a fine name for the file. But I'll go ahead and take out the table of contents. I won't need that right now. I can simply remove the table of contents. I can also change the way it looks. Maybe I want that. Maybe I want links, hyperlinks. However I want it to look, I can do that too. So it's a formattable thing, but I'll go ahead and remove it for now. But using proper formatting can help you put together reports and things, including tables of contents, put stuff on different pages, that sort of thing. But I want to focus for a moment here on just bringing things over. We'll go back to our tourism, which dates will be visited. Let me copy that chart. That's all I do is click on that. I'll come over here and I'll do my Command V or Control V, whatever it is on yours. And again, I get a link to form. I'll leave it linked, so as it gets updated, it will be updated here. It's a linked chart. And I've got my chart right there in my report. Of course, I can type in any text I want to. I also can do insert to pull things into it, insert chart from sheets. So if I've done some custom chart in one of my sheets, I can go ahead and pull that in. You can see I've got different uh, spreadsheets available to me. So I'll go ahead and pick my tourism analysis sheet. I can pull any of the ones that I created there. So if I want to pull this one that I used in the slide deck with the custom colors, I can do that. And it will be a link chart that will be linked back to that. So I can pull charts from forms, or I can pull them from my analyses. If I want this as a table, I can copy that, come over here. I'll move this down a bit so I get some space. This will land on a new page anyway, undoubtedly, and paste it in. Again, it will offer to make it linked. I'll leave it linked. And there's my table all set up with the numbers that I just calculated in my spreadsheet. Uh, I can also, going back to the original first tab, if I want to grab some particular piece of this, as I did in the presentation, I can copy that, go back over to my document, and I can paste that in. Again, I'm doing a Command V or Control V to do the pasting. The standard ways to do it. This one's got a page break on it. I'll probably want that on its own page. So I'll put that, I'll use a command return for a forced page break and drop it on its own page. And there's the table right there. The other thing you can do, both in slides and in documents, but I'll do that here, is you do have the capability of doing uh, basic drawings inside. Now you can pull up images, of course, but you can do basic drawings inside here. When you click New, you get a little drawing window that's essentially Google Drawing built into Docs. And so you can put in some shapes if you wish to, or arrows, whatever you like. And so maybe I want to put in a particular shape here, a direct access storage device. Comes in like that. I can alter the color if I need to. Let's go pick up maybe another shape from here. Uh, we can, let's grab another shape. Let's grab, oh no, there's fine. What is that guy? Part of a flow chart there. Something. Instructions. And if I wish to, I can connect stuff together. If for some reason that makes any sense. If I start here and go over to here, and I think I'll use a curved connector. Will probably work a bit better. So I'll connect from here over to there. Maybe I can move this guy around. Whoops. Control Z. Click on my arrow so I'll get back to moving stuff. Click on that guy. I'll delete that guy. It's a mistake. But as I move, you'll see my connectors stay connected. Connector's a little small, so I maybe make it a bit thicker. Maybe make it bolder. Maybe change this thing to a new color. Well, that's the basics to this. You can add text to a drawing. This would be text added to a drawing. You can include an image in a drawing. You can import an image into the drawing. You can change the font and other things. You can sit there and change some of these things to a new font, new size, bold, all kinds of things you can do in this text box inside the drawing. So a number of different things you can do. Once you're done with your diagram, we can have labels on these two guys. This might be the arc system something. This might, you can have little labels. Once you're done, you simply say save and close, and that will drop right into your document. So you can put together, right from your document, you can put together um, these sorts of things from drawings, diagrams. You can also pull diagrams or drawings that you've already made from your drive that you did in Google Drawing, which we haven't covered in this sequence, but you can also pull pre-existing drawings that you've worked on from your drive. So you've got lots of different things that you can put together here, lots of capabilities. You simply explore the menus to see how different things work. There's a full Docs help online. When you do get stuck, you can help can get you through how a particular feature works. It's a very full-featured word processing program, but I did want to cover the inclusion of drawings and integrating charts and tables coming in potentially from forms or from spreadsheets where you may have done some analysis and want to pull some of that data back across. That's a really brief look at Docs, but that's Docs in a nutshell. From there, you're typing and doing whatever the things you would normally do in a document. And as always, you can share the document from sharing, and so you can change it to anyone with a link or just anyone at the college, whatever you want. Then send a link to people, and you can, as always, I copy the link. I'll go over to a new tab. If I paste that link in just raw, you'll see the document comes up. I'm the editor. But if I actually go up here, and difficult to see, so let me move this down just a little. You can see what I'm doing up here. I'm going to go to the end of the document, take out this whole beginning all the way back to the word edit. I'm looking for the word edit, and then I'll shift to preview. If I share it to everybody, I've set my sharing to everyone, and I send them this link, this is what they see. They will see just the document in a print preview mode. No menus, and while I can edit it because I'm in my own account theoretically, they can't. And even here, I'm in a preview mode, so even I can't edit it at this point. So it's a nice way to display a file. If for some reason I need to give somebody a copy of this file, I get rid of the word preview and I simply add copy. That link there, if I take that and copy the whole thing and make a new tab, and I use that link, it'll prompt me to make a copy or whoever else gets it. Again, provided that I've already set the sharing, I've got to go back here. I'm going to change that copy to edit to bring myself back to edit mode. Provided I've set the sharing such that they can access the document, either to college or anyone. If it's restricted and I haven't added them up here, then nobody can, the copy won't work. It has to be, they have to have access in order to preview or copy the file. You have to change the access. With the access set to restricted, then I have to specify people here, and I have to say what their authority will be from this menu here. And then I can add them into that particular document, just them. And I don't have to change the general access. And so if I've got a file that's confidential and I'm only going to send it to a specific person, that's the way to share it to them. And then once I've done that, I decide whether or not they have edit authority, commenting authority, or they view only. So still have a lot of, as owner, I have control of that document. So that's just a brief look at docs and wraps up our fourth segment of this rather deep dive into forms, sheets, slides, and docs as an integrated environment. I do thank you for watching.